Do you, like me, use cannabis as part of your morning ritual to be the best version of yourself? If so, you're not alone. I'm Catherine Goldberg. Welcome to Senior Savvy Cannabis. Today, we're going to talk about one of my all time favorite topics, which is morning cannabis use. I understand that throughout popular culture, cannabis is usually portrayed as a sedative. Um, the lazy stoner comes to mind. Obviously, if you've been here for more than like one episode, you'll know that I represent a new kind of cannabis consumer. It's a kind that is intellectual, that uses cannabis mindfully and intentionally, that is the big distinction, and we'll get into specifics, by the way, is that instead of just saying, oh, here's a free joint from the weed store, I am curious about the chemotype, what is in the cannabis, and how that's going to make me feel so that I can better dictate my experience. And it makes me so happy that so many of you guys have written in to say that you have started to ask for the COAs for your sativa, and that now you're able to pick strains that maybe aren't as high in myrcene, so you don't feel as tired when you consume them. So fabulous. There are more of us. Let's just talk about why someone might want to use cannabis first thing in the morning. A couple of reasons come to mind. One, I have interviewed a number of pediatricians who work with children on the autism spectrum. When many of these children use cannabis first thing in the morning before school, they are able to participate in their education in a meaningful way, in a way that they were not able to before. That alone, great example. Second, a lot of people wake up and have arthritis. A lot of people wake up and are in pain from the moment they wake up. Instead of kind of sitting in the pain until the evening when it's like socially acceptable to use cannabis, some people use it in the morning, and then they get ahead of their pain and they're able to move throughout the day and participate and be in a better mood. The common denominator, right, is about using cannabis to participate in your life, whatever that means to you. I use cannabis in the morning because it gives me an appetite. Without food, surprisingly, cognition or emotional regulation or creativity don't work as well. So for those reasons, I use cannabis. And as we've discussed before with the sativa scam and all of that, is that when I use cannabis first thing in the morning, I expect it to feel a certain way. And when it doesn't feel that way, I want to dig deeper. So there are a couple ways we can approach morning cannabis use. And I'm going to separate energizing from focused, because they're two separate things. And depending on how you want to feel, you're going to want to pick something different. So basically what we have to work with, right? We have cannabinoids, THC, CBG, THCV. We have terpenes, terpinolene, limonene, pinene. And we have other, like the hippie speedball, combinations of different plants and cannabis. The hippie speedball, for those of you who don't know, it's coffee and cannabis. It's wonderful. How many of you, by the way, like are in the coffee cannabis club? Because we know what's going on. Okay, so let's break down how these work. So first of all, THC in high doses is sedative. THC in lower doses is energizing. And of course, everyone's biology is a little bit different. So I'm just going to talk about general mechanism, but of course you may be an exception. It may work different for you. I hope you're willing to experiment. So caffeine, as maybe most of us know or don't know, it doesn't give you energy. It blocks sleepiness. It blocks the neurotransmitter adenosine that makes you feel sleepy. Because of this blockage, there's more dopamine and more neuroepinephrine around that gives you energy. So this combination of, I think, coffee and cannabis is great because sometimes cannabis is a bit mellow and then the coffee is going to wake you up, and it's a really good catalyst for, going for a walk or exercise or anything that involves like motivation and movement. And a lot of people like this, and that's good enough. Now we can kind of have fun with it. I've talked about the neuroscience of terpenes and how those three sativa terpenes modulate different neurotransmitters, particularly like neuroepinephrine and dopamine and serotonin and acetylcholine, which is why when people are like, there's no such thing as like energizing cannabis, like there is. So the terpenes can dictate that effect. If you're looking for like energy, terpinolene is going to be a better choice than limonene, because terpinolene is going to act on neuroepinephrine and dopamine, okay, more like movement, and limonene is going to act on dopamine and serotonin, more contentness, but not sleepy. And pinene is works on acetylcholine, which has to do with learning and memory. So a couple people have written in recently saying that they want to use cannabis as more of like a cognitive enhancer. So not only do they not want to be sleepy, obviously, they also want to be like focused. So pinene is a really good terpene for that. You're going to want to find it in different combinations. And to close out this conversation about terpenes before we get into minor cannabinoids, there's a reason that terpenes vary dramatically throughout products and batches. And that's because terpenes are going to come down to genetics, right? What genes are there to be coded for in the long run to produce those terpenes. It's going to come down to how the plant was grown and when it was chopped. Was it chopped early because it's like THCA? Maybe it doesn't have that many terpenes. Maybe the terpene production is much lower. What about the dry and the cure? Those are either going to like bring out or disintegrate terpenes. And then once all this is done and packaged and scanned, the time between having it like get to the dispensary to you purchasing it, like that could be months. So I understand why people like concentrates, especially the sauces, because they have a higher terpene percentage, and terpenes very often dictate effects for a lot of people. Okay. One more point before cannabinoids. The temperature at which you consume your cannabis is going to also dictate how sedative or energizing it is. The reason I switched to a vape, you can watch the video about that, is because at lower temperatures, at like the 330, 340, 350 range, you're really only liberating the sativa terpenes and very little of the THC. So the effect is much more clear-headed, much more energizing, much more focused. As you move up the temperature, you get more of that body high coming in. And it's been fabulous to hear from all these people, you guys that have been, you just got your Lobo like me, and you're like loving the temperature controls, and you can define how you're going to feel throughout the day. Fabulous. Okay. And I guess this is a good time to mention, if you're still watching, I wrote into Planet of the Vapes to just say like how much I really liked the Lobo and how impressed I was, because it was exactly what I was looking for. And they were like, here, we'll just send you another one to give out to someone in your audience. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe, and then you'll be the first to know when that's going to go down. Okay, now let's get into cannabinoids. And I think this is where the distinction between energy and focus kind of lays. So terpinolene is going to be energizing. Okay. The cannabinoid that I think is most closely related to that effect is THCV, which is found in like Durban poison, which is high in terpinolene, right? Like they kind of go together. So THCV, I wouldn't exactly call it energizing. I would call it clear headed, and it's very much appetite suppressing, right? You're not going to be hungry. A lot of people don't, their appetite is reduced when they use THCV. It's used for diabetic patients to modulate blood sugar. I I don't think it's energizing like terpinolene is. It's very clear headed. Then you have CBG, which is focused. It's clear headed. It's not energizing, but it's also not sedative. So, depending on how you want to feel, you really do have a lot to work with. You have THC in small doses, you have THCV, you have CBG. Just stay away from CBN because that is like the sedative cannabinoid. It's actually just degraded THC, changes the molecular structure. So the point of all of this, by the way, is that not to say like sativa is better than indica or like indoors better than outdoor or anything like that. It's just to tell you guys that like cannabis is really beautiful and complex, and there's a lot of variety in it. And the more you learn about how your body works and how the plant works and how they work together, you can determine how you want to feel, and you can use it to be the best version of yourself. So if you, like me, use cannabis to be the best version of yourself in whatever way. And by the way, someone wrote in, and I think they thought I was like, some people use cannabis to relax. Relaxing is a very active part of recovery, of mental health. If cannabis is the catalyst that allows you to relax, that's a blessing. It just depends on what you want to use it for. And it's amazing that there's so many different varieties to choose from, and that the science is really being tailored to bring out these different aspects for the consumer. So if you learned something from this video, I hope you'll subscribe, and we will be back next week to talk probably about more energizing cannabis because it is my favorite topic. So thank you for listening, and I'm glad you're here. Bye.